blah, 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 blah. Should really start scripting these things before I start talking. Happy October, everyone. Welcome back to Budget Bites. My name is Christy. I am the dietitian at the Arnprior and District Family Health Team, and I am here for our annual Pumpkin Palooza. Every October, I try to show you a new pumpkin recipe, and today's no different. It's a dark, dreary, cold kind of day, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to show you some pumpkin-y comfort food. So we are going to make a creamy pumpkin rigatoni dish together. So I will get all my ingredients together, I will show them to you, and we can get started. For this recipe, you are going to need some pasta. Obviously, we are making a pumpkin pasta. Can't do it without pasta. I've got these nice rigatoni noodles here. Feel free to use whatever noodles you have on hand. I like these rigatoni for this recipe because the ridges really hold on to that pumpkin-y sauce, and so that works really well for me. If you have, what are those spiral ones called? Rotini or macaroni or whatever you have in your pantry, feel free to go ahead and use those. No need to run out and get a different kind of pasta. Anything will work just fine. So I'm going to get these boiling behind me here. You guys have all cooked pasta before. We're just going to cook them up according to the package directions. Boil it in some water. Other ingredients we are going to need. We need some cooking oil. Again, whatever you have on hand. I'm going to use a little bit of canola oil today. You need 2 cloves of minced garlic. We are going to need pumpkin. Note about this ingredient here. Be very careful when you're shopping that you are buying 100% pure pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. Very different ingredients. This really is just pumpkin. There's nothing else added to this. This would be the equivalent of like buying a pie pumpkin and cooking it up and scraping it out yourself. Pumpkin pie filling, though, has all those other ingredients like the evaporated milk and the brown sugar and all those things that are delicious, not so delicious in this pasta recipe. So make sure you're buying the right ingredients. We are going to need a little bit of tomato paste. You're going to need some broth. Ideally here you want to try buy the low sodium broth. If it's not available, like today when I was at the grocery store, they didn't have any low sodium broth available. Get what's available to you. The low sodium is nice, just cuts back a little bit on the total sodium content of the recipe, but it's not the end of the world to take it. You are also going to need some spinach. I'm going to be using this fresh baby spinach here. Feel free, you can also use frozen spinach. So what you're going to do with the frozen spinach is you are going to thaw it out, put it into a clean cooking towel, and give it a squeeze. You want to squeeze out as much of that liquid as you can so that you're not turning your nice creamy pumpkin sauce into a soupy mess. So it's a little bit of extra work, but it is very budget friendly, and feel free to use that. It will work out just fine in your recipe here. We also are going to be using a little bit of cream. Whatever you have on hand will work. You could also use milk, or if you're making this a vegan recipe, feel free to leave this out entirely. It will not dramatically change your sauce. Adding the cream does give it a little bit more of a creamy body that's kind of nice, but absolutely not necessary. Something I haven't tried, but I assume would probably also work, is using a coconut milk or something in place of the cream. And then last but not least, we are going to garnish our pasta at the end with a couple little additions. These are completely optional. Feel free to use the ones that I'm using here or to substitute them with other ingredients that you like better. As I'm kind of going along and cooking here, I'll try to give you a couple different ideas. But we are going to be using a little bit of Parmesan cheese and some crushed up walnuts here as a nice crunch to our dish at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to get this started. I'm going to get some pasta boiling. I'm going to get my garlic chopped up. You are going to need a skillet. So I'm going to get myself a skillet and start warming that over here on my hot plate, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm here. I've got my oil heating up in my skillet here. Once it's nice and warm, I am going to add my minced garlic in there and cook that up until it is fragrant. Let's talk a little bit about pasta, actually. Pasta is a food that we think of as primarily being carbohydrate, and that is true. Most of what is in this pasta is carbohydrate, and this is just a plain white starchy pasta. There's no whole grain ingredients in here. Of course, if you can get your hands on a whole grain pasta, that is absolutely the better way to go. You're going to get a little bit more fiber from that. But this is not all bad either. So even in this sort of run-of-the-mill basic pasta, One serving, which on here is 2/3 of a cup, contains 11 grams of protein. So this is not devoid of protein. It's not just starch in here. There are some other macronutrients included as well. So don't forget about the protein content in here. And even though this is white pasta, there is still 4 grams of fiber in here. So I think that's significant. Along with some other nutrients like folate, riboflavin, thiamine, all those kinds of things. And most of our whole wheat products or wheat products in Canada are also fortified with a little bit of iron. So if iron is a nutrient that's difficult for you to come by, using ingredients like this, where there's actually iron added into them, is one way that you can help to meet that requirement. Don't fear the pasta, I guess is my big take-home message on that here. So my oil's nice and hot. I'm gonna get my garlic going in here, and then I will show you how to finish up this sauce while our pasta cooks. Okay. So now I've got my oil going in here, my garlic is going. You just wanna cook it until it becomes fragrant. So you don't wanna burn your garlic, but you do wanna sort of mellow it out a little bit. I've got some new equipment with me here today. If anyone's ever attended Budget Bites in person, you'll recognize this bad boy here. This is the hot plate from the Family Health Team kitchen. It is a little bit finicky. It's not always the most reliable, but you know what? I've grown to love it over the years, so I thought I would bring it home, use it here so I can actually look at you virtually and chat while I'm cooking rather than you guys just having a view of the pan, which isn't overly exciting. Hopefully I'm exciting. I don't know. You're watching this video, so you're getting something out of it. I'm gonna stir around my garlic here, and next we're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients here. So we are going to add a couple tablespoons of our tomato paste. And you can eyeball this here, it's not the end of the world. Tablespoons of that. You are gonna need about 1 cup of pumpkin. Just the rest of my can that I have here. We are going to add a couple tablespoons of cream. Feel free to use any of the alternatives I already mentioned to you, or milk as well. If you are concerned about saturated fat, that is a legitimate concern. Cream is a high-fat ingredient. So if you're watching your cholesterol, you may want to be using a lighter alternative. An awesome ingredient that I often suggest to people in that situation is use a canned evaporated milk. You'll still get sort of a cream-like texture from it, but you'll have a tiny fraction of the saturated fat. So the cream that I just added in here, this is about 18% milk fat. Your canned evaporated milk will only be 1%, or maybe 2%. So that's a good one to go for. This is a stir. We are going to add about 1 cup of broth, which is about a quarter of one of these. Stir, and we're just going to combine it all. We want it to come together, bring it to sort of a simmer. I'm going to do my usual double check. I'm notorious for forgetting ingredients. Make sure I've got everything that I'm supposed to have in here. I do. Perfect. Okay. So we're just going to stir this around. It should smell garlicky. Every year I do these pumpkin recipes because I think pumpkin is such an underrated ingredient. It's obviously super seasonal for this time of year. It's fun, it's got that nice bright orange color, and I do think it's true that we eat with our eyes before we eat with our mouths. And so I think it's important to make sure that your recipes are visually appealing, and using some like nice brightly colored ingredients is one way to do that. It's not really all that appetizing when you look at your plate and everything is beige. So I love pumpkin for that. It's also an excellent source of beta-carotene, which is one of the building blocks of vitamin A. Antioxidants are super important. I talk about antioxidants all the time. And pumpkin is also a great source of fiber. So we're adding more fiber to our pasta with our sauce, which is awesome. So we're ticking off all those nutritional needs. So I'm gonna let this warm through sort of at a nice low simmer. I'm gonna see if I can show you a peek what it looks like. Got a nice creamy orange sauce going on. And This recipe is like super simple, guys. This can come together in your kitchen in about 10 to 15 minutes. No big deal, not a lot of prep work involved. Really, the only chopping you have to do is mincing up that garlic. Other than that, you're pretty much good to go with what you've got, which is always nice for a weekday dinner. So next, we are gonna add a little bit more nutrition in. We are gonna add in our baby spinach. If you are using fresh baby spinach like I am, you are going to have to wilt this into your sauce because it is quite fluffy. If you are using a frozen spinach, it's kind of already wilted down, and so you can use about 1/4 of the brick. I'm going to use about 2 cups worth. Mix the rest of this container. Toss it all in there. And I'm just going to stir this around and let it wilt down and combine into my sauce. Again, we're adding more colors and more antioxidants. If you guys remember the old Canada's Food Guide, one of the recommendations that was in that food guide was to every day always try to eat 1 orange and 1 green vegetable. And this recipe is kind of ticking both those boxes right here. So it's super nutritious, but also a nice comfort food. Who doesn't want to curl up with a big, nice bowl of cream pasta on a day like today? Someone asked me the other day what I thought the best diet was, and I thought that was a really interesting question, and I didn't have an answer right off the bat. And then after I thought about it for a while, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, there isn't just one best diet. I think the best diet looks different for everyone. And where I think you can figure out where the best diet is for you is the healthiest diet you can still enjoy, and that you can afford too. Of course, this is Budget Bites. We're always talking about budgeting and how to cook with lower cost ingredients. And I think you need to balance all of those needs, and wherever you settle at is the best diet for you. And it might look different than what the best diet is for me, what the best diet is for your neighbor, and that's totally okay. I don't think there's one perfect diet out there, and I don't think we should strive for perfection either. This is a lifestyle, not a diet, and I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about the statistics on diets. 95% of people who go on a restrictive diet regain any weight they've lost within a couple of years. And so it's not something that's we're really recommending that much anymore. Instead, we're looking at small changes that you can maintain for a lifetime so that you get a lifetime of benefit from those small changes. These are cumulative. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that we're not striving for perfection when it comes to nutrition. No one, dietitians included, none of us are eating a quote-unquote perfect diet. Okay, so my spinach is nice and wilted in here. My sauce is looking nice and creamy. I'm going to go drain my pasta now, and I'm going to add it to my sauce here. One thing to remember, before you drain your pasta, you're going to want to scoop out some of that nice starchy cooking water. What that's going to do is we're going to add it into our sauce here, and it helps the sauce adhere to the pasta so that each bite of pasta has that yummy creamy sauce on it. So try to remember to do that. I am notorious for pouring all the pasta water down the drain and then realizing afterwards that I really needed some of it. So try not to be like me. Remember your pasta water, and you don't need a lot. 1/4 cup or so will be plenty for this recipe. Okay, I'm gonna put my cooked pasta into my sauce. Go. Whew. Give that a stir around. And you're just trying to evenly distribute the sauce all over every single noodle so that they're all equally delicious. And then this is the cooking part of this is pretty much done. Now we're just gonna plate it up and top it with our add-ins. So what I am using today, I'm gonna use a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And cheese is actually a very nutritious ingredient. There's a lot of good stuff in cheese. It's a great source of protein. It adds a lot of flavor and interest to a dish. The downside to it though is that it is a very high saturated fat food again. So it's not something you wanna be coating all of your dishes in, but a little sprinkling to add a little bit of interest I think is worthwhile. And I do encourage you to get the best quality cheese you can afford, because you're gonna get the best flavor from the smallest amount of it that way. So if you're buying that powdered, I don't even know if it's real cheese, that powdered Parmesan cheese, you don't really get a good amount of flavor from it, as opposed to buying an actual brick of Parmesan and fresh grating it yourself. Just a tiny little sprinkle of that can completely change your dish. So I recommend using that. If you were vegan, a good alternative to add some interest to this dish is a little bit of nutritional yeast. Also a good option for anyone who's not eating cheese because of their cholesterol. The other item I'm going to add are some nuts. So these are chopped walnuts. I really like adding walnuts to this dish because one, it adds some nice texture, it's a nice crunch. And two, walnuts are an excellent source of omega-3s. And so if you are a vegan or vegetarian who doesn't eat fish, or even if you're not a vegan or vegetarian and you just don't eat fish often, omega-3s are one of those nutrients that are sometimes hard to come by. And so adding things like walnuts or even flax seeds into your diet regularly is one way to help you meet your nutrient needs. So these are full of heart-healthy fats, there's a little bit of fiber in here as well. And if you buy your walnuts in like these little sort of no-name baking bulk style packages, they're actually quite budget friendly. These aren't too bad. So you can look for those. Bulk Barn is also a good place to go. Other alternatives, if you're not into using the walnuts, feel free to throw some sliced up grilled chicken on here, or if you have a leftover rotisserie chicken, you can shred that up and add it in here. Whatever you've got, feel free to take this dish and make it your own. A lot of these recipes that I'm doing on Budget Bites are always just a starting point, and I hope that you are able to take them and make them your own and feel free to be creative with them. I won't be insulted. I'm gonna clean this up, I'm gonna show you what it looks like, and then we're gonna eat. So here it is, guys. Here's our finished dish. You can see each bite of rigatoni is coated in that nice creamy orange sauce. We've got a little sprinkling of that Parmesan cheese and the crunchy nuts on top to add some texture. I hope you love this one, and I hope it helped you to see how you can fit pasta into a healthy lifestyle. And I hope you really like it. So as usual, we'll be back next month with another video. If you have any ideas about what you'd like to see me cook on here, please let me know. I always try to take all your recommendations into account, and I would love to see if you make this dish at all. So take care, and I will see you next month. Bye.